Good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zones, maybe even good morning. My name is Katie Redmond. I am truly humbled to be the moderator for this session. What happens after is a critical discussion. I think we often talk about all the great benefits that you have and the memories that you make and the friends that you make when you study abroad during the experience. But one of the biggest benefits to y'all is what happens after. How do you build your career? How you change your careers? Just a bit of my background. I'm talking to you from Albuquerque, New Mexico, my hometown. I'm a global health professional currently working on health equity in the COVID-19 response in Alaska, for the state of Alaska. And I am a alumna of an ISEP semester abroad to the University of Botswana in Botswana in 2013, and a Fulbright research alumna. And I was working on a public health project looking at community perceptions of TB in Namibia from 2019 September and to 2020 in March when I was evacuated to the pandemic. Fingers crossed, I am a semifinalist to head back to Namibia and finish the research. But enough about me, because everybody else on this panel is much more exciting than I am. One last thing I just want to say before we jump into our introductions. As a disclaimer, all of us on this panel have done our semesters abroad in different time periods, different years. There's been different benefits that have come up, and I just want to list a couple of them, but it is not going to be exhaustive. There's so many different benefits and experiences that you can get from doing a semester abroad. So an example is having access to the alumni network that can help you with jobs, that can help you with mentoring by participating in these programs. There's also a thing called non-competitive eligibility for Gilman scholars and Fulbright recipients, meaning that you will be at the top of the list for federal jobs from a year after completing your successful Fulbright or Gilman semester abroad, which is huge, especially with these economic things. So any federal job, that was a fairly recent development that wasn't there when I was in Botswana. And then there's also additional grants that you have access to, and just studying abroad enables you to get more access and your foot in the door with a truly a great community of global citizens. So anyways, that's all for my end. I would love to hear our panelists start to introduce themselves briefly. They do have their bios on the website, so we're just going to go ahead and quickly do a quick summary of their experiences. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Christopher Browne. I studied abroad in Switzerland in 2008, 2009. Awesome opportunity. My school was Brooklyn College, so I am in New York City. I am now the CEO and the co-founder of the Buckler Group. It's the whisperer for all things, all youth and millennial service providers in both private and public sector. So we do a lot of projects, programs, just retention, recruitment, design for countries, for institutions, individuals all over the world. And I'm happy to be a part. I didn't know the benefits. Well, in 2008, there weren't that much benefits. So I am happy to be able to share how I did it, and I'm sure the other panelists as well is happy to share.
Hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Sanchez, and I studied abroad in France in 2007. I studied international business in college, and when I was studying, I learned about Gilman, and Gilman gave me the opportunity to travel and live in Europe for the first time in my life. So it was a wonderful experience, and I was able to get financial support from Gilman. And that was the first step, and what it made it feasible for me to go over there. And after that, I decided to do different international experiences, and my career has immersed me into the climate change and environmental sectors and renewable energy. So I've been working on policy and international development on those areas, and I would be happy to share more with you about it later. But consider Gilman and all the scholarships, and you should live this experience for yourself. Thank you.
Malaika, would you please go?
Sure. Yes, I'm so sorry. I was holding space for my sister Keshia. I thought it was her turn. I apologize. Hi, friends. My name is Malaika Marable Serrano. Pronouns are she, her, hers. And I'm the head of diversity, equity, inclusion at World Strides, which is one of the largest student travel organizations in the US. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, as I threw a shout out in the chat. I had the joy of spending a semester abroad in Australia in 1997, and then followed up with a January term program to Brazil, followed by a year of teaching English in Caracas, Venezuela. I also had the joy of receiving a Fulbright to go to Germany. And in a past job life, I served as a happy recruiter for the Critical Language Scholarship Program, as well as when I was a study abroad advisor at UT Knoxville. I was a very active Gilman scholar advisor. So very happy to be here and have this conversation with all of you in this awesome panel.
Hi, everybody. I'm Keshia Abraham. Very happy to be here as well. I am the president and lead consultant at the Abraham Consulting Agency. I'm very happy to run my own business now and doing work that is specifically engaging opportunities for us to consider our agency, to use our agency more to make positive social change in international education and other spaces. I have been a faculty member for a long time, teaching African diaspora literature and culture, which is what my Fulbright and all of my study abroad experiences combined were really focused on. I initially studied abroad the first time when I was 12. We don't have to say what year that was. And then again, when I was in high school, I went to Italy to study abroad. And then in college, I studied abroad in Zimbabwe while I was at Spelman. And primarily because I wanted to go to South Africa, but Zimbabwe was the option we had at the time. This was in 1993. And since then, I have had 2 Fulbrights. The first was in Trinidad and Tobago, and the second was in India. And I've been an advisor for Gilman for many years, and CLS, which is how I met Malaika originally, many years ago. And I continue to advise for all of those programs, but independently now, as I work with many service organizations, study abroad provider organizations, and universities, specifically HBCUs, to continue to uplift international education in all of the spaces that we need to do that work in.
See, you take the first opportunity, the international experiences just keep coming. So let's, Christopher, if you can start off with this question: how has study abroad changed your personal life?
Of course. For me, the study abroad process, really gave me the chance to expand my perceived limits. So just a little bit about that. So I had to raise around $21,000 to study abroad in Switzerland. So I got the call. I was accepted for the Gilman scholarship. I was in Jamaica at the time, and the departure date was in 3 weeks. So after the vacation, I came back to the US, New York, and I had like 2.5 weeks left. So I just cut my travel short and came back. And I had the duty to now raise a lot of money. The school was one of the most expensive schools, Schiller International University in Switzerland, $31,000 a semester. My father only gave me $50 to go, and I was tasked to raise 21K, and I did it. Because so what I wanted to do, who I could engage with these type of questions. For me, my scope was limited. I never studied abroad before. And so with this, I was able to expand my boundaries, expand my horizons, even expand, just create larger goals for myself. So regarding my personal life, the study abroad experience really made me comfortable in my own skin and have me even make wider, broader, more larger goals for myself.
And now Christopher is a financial guru. Jacqueline, could you start? What was your experience? How did it change your personal life?
Thank you, Katie. I would like to share that I grew up in a small town in Mexico. My family is from Mexico. And living in a small town, I didn't think I would have these international opportunities to study abroad. That was not even in my head. Learning another language, it was very not an idea to think of. But when I started college and I learned about Gilman and different opportunities that I could have in the international arena, I decided that I wanted to learn another language. I studied French as a third language, and French gave me a lot of challenges, and it was a great thing. So being able to learn other languages and understanding other cultures, it was a great thing. And as Katie was mentioning, after you learn about one culture, you just want to keep on going and on going. So when I had the lifetime opportunity to go to France, I was able to meet people from all over the world, and I just wanted to become I ended up being a world citizen, as many of us here. And I was just learning from different people, and every person that I would meet, it would really inspire me. I always thought that I was, doing this and that, but every time I met someone else, I learned different things and different stories. And so every single time, I just wanted to be better as a person and also growing as a professional as well, but always being humble. And I think, receiving the Gilman Scholarship gave me an opportunity to embrace all this, and also to meet a lot of fellow alumni that were in the same situation as I. And everyone has their own story, and I was just been learning from everyone. But I think that after that, I've been just wanted to travel to this place or this other place, but I'm also very interested in learning about different cultures, different languages, and I just want to get very close to whoever I go. I just don't like to be, I like to be more at a deeper level and not just like visiting one place and, I check mark a place. I really want to get to know the country and the people and the culture. So I think it changed my personal life, and I think I became more outgoing person. And I was also able to pursue my sister to also apply for the Gilman Scholarship, and she also got the scholarship, and she went to Denmark for 1 year as well. And it was the same situation, her first time ever, and I feel very happy that I was able to support her on that. But also I was able to advise other students while I was in college to help them in a personal way to go over there. So, it just changed my worldview perspective. That's how I have changed in a personal way. So.
I'll jump in next. Yeah. I have, I think, a lot in common with you, Jacqueline, in the sense of really having study abroad enhance every part of my life. There's like no part that it didn't touch, hasn't touched. I would say that personal and professional life, of course. Because I'd studied abroad initially when I was 12, I was really curious at that age about how other people were living in the world. I wanted to meet all the other students I could possibly meet, hear their stories and understand them better. And I remember leaving Sweden and Denmark, coming back to the US and really just digging even deeper into all things global. I started a Student United Nations chapter at my high school because I just wanted to understand, I wanted more opportunities to talk about the world with more people. and there weren't enough people at my school. I knew that when I went to college, study abroad was something that I had to do, especially because when I studied in Italy, I was the only person of color on the program that I was on. And there was no one in that experience that really could relate to that. And I don't even think it was something that I was able to talk about clearly with the people that I was around, to fully articulate. And I think that stayed with me a lot, so that that's still a lot of the work that I draw on now as I advise and work with students and program providers and other people to really think about what is this experience of studying abroad? What are some of the considerations that we need to think about? I would say on the most personal level, not only have I learned the joy of distance relationships, but also relationships with people who also privilege international experience. I think everyone in my world, pretty much everyone in the community that I'm in, has some kind of a global connection, and I think we continue to seek each other out because there's something about the confines of the local space being a little too small, and you want to kind of continue to expand your thinking with other people. And I'd say lastly, it's definitely enhanced my comfort level in talking to people that I don't know. I've turned into that auntie who is convincing everyone that they meet that they have to study abroad, like literally everyone. If I ran into you at the T-Mobile store, you're probably studying abroad. If I ran into you at the grocery store and you checked out my groceries, you applied probably for a Gilman scholarship. If you were the person at the airport, literally at the person at the airport, all the Delta Counter people, I've talked to them about what I do, and I've gotten those people to contribute to scholarship funds over the years, because it's just too important to let go of. And so I'm really happy and really grateful for the ways that it's enhanced my personal and personal life.
Keshia, sis, you got me laughing over here because I can testify. I have seen Keshia in action when I first met you as a dean all those years ago at Florida Memorial. Yes, all of that is 1000% true. So how has study abroad changed my life? Well, personally, my name. So my first name and my last name. So Malaika means angel in Swahili. And my father actually studied abroad in 1970. He went to the University of Nairobi in Kenya. He heard the song Malaika nakupenda Malaika, and said, if I ever have a daughter, I'm going to name her Malaika. And so that's how I got my first name. So you could say I've been bit by the travel bug even before I was in utero. So there you go. And then following up with Serrano, which is Spanish. So I mentioned before, I taught English in Caracas in Venezuela. And having studied abroad previously really boosted my confidence. I'm like, yeah, after going to Australia, after going to Brazil, absolutely, I can go teach English in Venezuela, something I had never done and didn't speak any Spanish. But hey, I can do it, right? So that's what I did. And while I was there, I met a very nice young man named Rafael Serrano. And so you just kind of put two and two together. We had a very wonderful relationship for 15 years. We've since gone our separate ways, but we're still close. And we have two amazing children, Joaquin and Maya. So study abroad has absolutely changed my life forever in wonderful and beautiful ways.
Wonderful. There's stories that weren't coming out during the practice session, so I love this. Wonderful. So I want to see if we can start with Jacqueline on this next question. How has your studying abroad, did it change your career goals? And how is it impacted how does it impact your current work? We're kind of going to put two in one question, if that's okay.
Yes. Thank you, Katie. So I would like to mention that before I went to study abroad, I just want to say that I went to college in New Mexico State University, in case there are any Aggies around there. So I went to, before I went there, I was working as in a project related to wind power in the border of Mexico and the United States. So I started learning about wind power, and I didn't have any idea what it was. So I remember my former boss, he brought a book, and he was like, you have to learn the formula of the wind power. And I was like, okay, great. So I was like, okay, cool. So when I was in France, of course, Europe has been one of the leaders in renewable energy, wind power. And every time I was there, I was just amazed by just being on the train and just seeing the different wind turbines all over the place. So I started doing more research on that. And one of my initial ideas was to do a master's degree in renewable energy. That's what I wanted to do. But then I was in France and I made a lot of friends. And then after I finished college, I decided to go to Mexico and spend some time with my family. And at the same time, I was in Mexico City. I remember that I was scared to go to Mexico City because it's such a big city and whatever you see on the news is scary. And I grew up in Mexico, but going to Mexico City was very challenging and scary when I was a kid. So after college, I was living in, I went to Mexico City for vacations, and after that vacation became 7 years living in Mexico City. So I really enjoyed living in Mexico City because it was such a cosmopolitan area. And basically, when I was there, I learned, I started studying my master's degree. And I met a lot of friends, and of course, I share my experience about renewable energy and international perspective. And one of my friends, she showed me this position that was open that was related to renewable energy and international business development. And I was like, this position has my name on it. So I was super inspired. And it ended up that was with the British Embassy in Mexico City. And I have never been to the UK, but I had a lot of friends I made from the UK when I was in France. So I had a different perspective. So I went to the interview. When I was in the interview, I was talking about all my different stories and like everything I lived when I was in France and when I was in college. And I think I was able to pass all my energy and just to show how eager and willing I was to, thrive and continue going the extra mile at work. And I got the position. I was working on renewable energy, supporting British companies to do business in Mexico in that area. And it was wonderful. And after that, I moved to California, where I am right now. No, before that, I worked for the British government in Quito, in Ecuador as well. So I was working in environmental issues as well, related to the Galapagos Islands and different topics. So of course, renewable energy and environment went all together, and bringing the Gilman into everything is that I got more international perspective, right? First of all. So, and after that, after Ecuador, I went back to Mexico City. Now I am in California. And I've been working on renewable energy and climate change, and I work with Latin America. So of course, I need to speak to a lot of governments in Latin America. So it's good, so I can continue speaking Spanish and English at the same time. And it's just wonderful to learn how different countries are working to making a world more sustainable. So I just feel very inspired that doing all this international arena work and contributing and making an impact in the world has inspired me a lot. But I think that the first step, it was always studying abroad because of Gilman. So thank you, Katie.
No, thank you. Really insightful experience. And you, again, not only are you working abroad, you're also working on other projects that are really challenging issues facing the world with people that all these issues are impacting. Dr. Abraham and Keshia, how has that impacted your career currently?
So I never knew when I was in college, I never knew that study abroad or working in study abroad was a direction. That wasn't a conversation that we were having back then. When I went to study abroad, initially in Zimbabwe, although I was a Spelman student, I don't think I was quite prepared for the level of rigor that I experienced at the University of Zimbabwe and how important education was to all of my classmates there. I was the only woman in all of the classes that I took at the University of Zimbabwe And I was intentionally there to study African feminisms and literature. And so working with students that were kind of at a graduate school level had me think about, and everyone around me, the professors that I was working with were like, have you thought about graduate school? And I had thought about it, but I didn't really understand why I needed to be thinking about it until I was in courses where the level of study was such that we were expected to publish and all of this. And so I came back to Spelman and I'm like, I guess, graduate school is next. And I hadn't, unlike a lot of people, I think I went to college with an expectation that I was going to do political science because I was going to be international lawyer. That process was disrupted a bit by the president of our university helping to choose my classes. In my freshman year, she chose my classes and she chose the professors that I would work with. And she helped me realize that inside I was actually an English major and I just didn't know it. So those two things combined, and I came back to Spelman from studying abroad initially, and it was thinking about graduate school, the folks around me were like, think about graduate opportunities that allow you to dig deeper into what you're interested in. So I didn't really, at that point, I wasn't really thinking career. All I knew was that I needed to learn more about what I was learning in order to feel more fulfilled in the world and in order to have more to share with people. So when I did go to graduate school, obviously, when I was in my graduate program is when I applied for the Fulbright. And the reason for that, it was maybe an unconventional kind of approach, but I really didn't know what I was doing after graduate school. I wasn't like, I'm going to run off and be a professor. I'm going to go off and do this, that, and the other. I just really wanted to study more about Black women's literature and post-colonial literature. I just wanted to dig more into that, more into feminism and things in the world. And so the Fulbright provided me the opportunity to do that. I realized that although I had been studying Caribbean literature, I studied African literature, I'd been already to Africa, but I had not spent significant time in the Caribbean. And so my Fulbright specifically gave me the additional year and a half, because I was able to extend it while I was there, to really dig deeper into Caribbean literatures and culture. I went to, as I said, Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago, Grenada also during that time. And it helped grow me as a scholar. And so when I did decide to come back to begin entering the profession, begin entering academia, it was with the lens of really studying this more and sharing this information with more students. I had also had no idea that I was going to end up working at a HBCU that didn't have a study abroad program. And of course, because study abroad had been so important to my life, I was just like, what do you mean there's no study abroad program? We gotta get one. So let me do it. And so I asked the provost, even though I was already a professor and the department chair, let me do that too. I need to be able to create study abroad for the institution. And so fortunately, they allowed me to do that. I set up study abroad at that institution and began working in partnership with other institutions all over the country, specifically HBCUs and other institutions that are dedicated to serving students of color. And long story short, after 25 years or so of this work, I literally live and breathe study abroad every day, literally. And I couldn't be more grateful for it.
And I can back that up. When I first met with Dr. Abraham, she was coming straight out of a meeting with educators in Eswatini, our Swaziland, if people aren't familiar with the name change. And that's just got to be an incredible experience. You get to talk to people from all over the world and constantly learn and constantly be humbled. Like, I think that would be a dream career for many people. Yes, Malaika, if you can close us up on this question, how it's changed your career and how it's impacting your time abroad impacts what you do currently.
Sure, absolutely. So nodding my head and smiling because so many of the pieces that I've heard both from Jacqueline as well as from Keshia resonate deeply with me as well. So when I studied abroad in Australia, I was a junior and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do after I graduated, but I had an epiphany when I was there, and that it was, wow, I love this. Could I do this as a job? And so just kind of stumbled into the space. And when I was in graduate school, looked for opportunities to really develop both as a practitioner and as a budding scholar as well. And really just set me on my path, to working in the study abroad space. But central to this work always has been my identities. And so I self-identify being a woman of color, BIPOC, African-American, Black, and that has greatly influenced to present day how I've approached this work. And so I smiled when, Keshia was mentioning, she looked to the left, looked to the right, didn't see anyone, who looked like her. Similar experience in Australia. There was one sister who coincidentally was from Spelman. So Spelman women are everywhere. I wanted to increase access, widen access to these opportunities for historically underrepresented students. Fast forward 20 years to present day, I now serve as the head of diversity, equity, and inclusion for my organization. And this is something that's relatively new, I would say, within the study abroad, education abroad, or even international education spaces. And so that's really exciting. And for friends who are listening in today, I just want you all to know that there is a space that intersections of diversity, equity, inclusion, and international education. So sky's the limit.
And I'm just going to quickly jump in before I have Christopher talk about, it's not just also representing the United States and giving opportunities to the US abroad. Like it or not, the United States is the king and queen, like they rule the international education experience. We have more people study abroad from our country than most other countries in the world. And when we send people with all sorts of diverse identities, that sends a message to people in the countries that we are experiencing, and they will send their diverse identities and start to think about humanity as this more complex intersectional experience. But I've spoken enough. Christopher, what are your thoughts on this question?
Oh, it's a very important question. For me, I was going onto the track to be very revenue driven instead of conscious driven. So regarding my career, I was the only one in Switzerland that looked like me. Especially in the school that I attended. I mean, here's of all rigs, queens, princes, in a few years, they're going to be ruling their particular nation. Owning 5 Maseratis, custom painted $2.5 million, they were in a life. And I was just, I was a guy that came on a scholarship, a Gilman scholarship, and didn't have that money, had to raise everything. And I realized that, hey, first of all, their expectation about a profession was very high. So they didn't consider themselves educated until they attained their PhD. Very interesting. And they, at the get-go, at age 13, they already knew how to speak 6 different languages. Monday, French, English, Tuesday, English, Wednesday. So, and that's how they rotate learning learning different languages. And I was like, what? I only knew English, a little bit of Portuguese, French, from college, but their game was out there, and they were, and their mindset was, they were going to get a profession, international, in the international arena, in the UN or in global business with those skills. So for me, that I had to step my game up. I was representing not only myself, not only the US, but a particular race, ethnicity. So the way I had to conduct myself, because it was very polarizing. Either you were ultra wealthy, to be quite candid, or a refugee. That's how they see. I'm serious. That's how they see especially male African American. So for me, I really had to be comfortable in my own skin, stepped my game up. I changed my whole philosophy about business to be more or less like a conscious driven business, given access, given opportunity as much as I can.
I can't even picture past my 20-year-old Hyundai Brutus, let alone somebody that owns five Maseratis. I mean, that had to be culture shock for real for a lot of people in different contexts. No, absolutely. And I'm just going to give a little bit of unsolicited advice based on what Christopher said. If you're considering studying abroad or want to work abroad, learn a language. If I could go back to college and learn at least another language besides English and not try in my late 20s to catch up, I would. Just please just do that. It's good for your brain. It's good for the world. Katie's off of her soapbox because this is not my panel. Last question before we get to Q&A that I really do want to start. And feel free, panel, to jump in. I know I had a structure, but this is all a grand experiment. I care more about y'all sharing your perspectives. What is your recommendation for people preparing to study abroad? Christopher, if you want to go ahead and start, and then we'll just have everyone go in from there, and then go to Q&A.
That's an amazing question. For me, it's listening and learning. Oh my gosh, listening and learning. Obviously, you need to go into the process of studying abroad with a goal in mind. Hey, I have a particular major, or I am undecided, so I am here to know more, just to fill in the gap that I have about my particular career track. So you're focused to learn more within that particular field, paradigm. However, have an open mind, because what you think you know may shock you. What you think you know may shock you. And what you think other countries deem that is true about you and the country that you represent can be absolutely false as well. So you have to listen and learn. That is the best advice that I can give. Have an open mind, but also be focused in the purpose of you studying abroad.
No, definitely let the country define its own experience, the experience for you. That's the approach that I've taken. Anyone else who would like to share their experiences? We can just popcorn this.
Okay, I'll popcorn in here. So one piece of advice would be to involve either family or loved ones early and often in the process. I actually found a letter I'd written my mother before I went abroad, so I thought that was kind of cute. But folk are excited to follow along your journey. And what I find is that, particularly when we're speaking around and to folk from historically underrepresented communities in the education abroad space, it's really important to focus in on the assets that we are bringing to the table. A lot of us, myself included, are coming from predominantly white institutions. I went to USC, the University of Southern California. But even if you are attending, say, an HBCU or an HSI, the skills and the assets that you have that brought you to that space are absolutely going to carry you into an education abroad opportunity. And then the last thing that I'll say is, don't be afraid to ask questions early and often. And you got this. You got this.
I'm going to jump in and echo Malaika in that definitely, it is possible. You got this, and it's manageable, and it is way easier than it might seem sometimes on the outset. I would also say that I think it's important to read, to watch films, and to ask questions again, to prepare oneself for the culture that you're going into and have at least some familiarity with some of the pieces that you can ask questions about more. I think also one of the things I used to tell students all the time when they would come to my office back in the day, and they wanted to go anywhere. They wanted to study abroad and just anywhere. They would often start with places that we have a relationship to because of our colonial past. And as an international JEDI educator, which of course JEDI, Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion educator, I think it's incredibly important that we disrupt those narratives every opportunity we have. And so if you're just open to going anywhere and you want to study abroad anywhere, and perhaps like you started studying French already in college, maybe consider Cameroon. Maybe consider, going to Lisbon. Sorry, not going to Lisbon. Maybe consider going to Brazil if you speak Portuguese. You're starting to study Portuguese. Maybe consider, going to Côte d'Ivoire again if it's French. Go to Senegal. Go to places that are farther than you ever have imagined yourself going, because the easy places you can always hit either on your way there or your way back. I'm nothing against the UK or Europe or anything like that at all, but I think that study abroad, especially when you're an undergraduate, is an opportunity to really, really see how far the money can really take you, how far the investment can take you. How deep can you get away from your own experience so that you're getting the most complexity, the most complex kind of understanding of the world that you can get, because that will inevitably enhance everything else that you do after that.
Perfect. So I would like to jump in, Katie, and I would like to add a few things. So first of all, you have to believe that you can do it, right? As I said, when I was young, I just didn't think I was gonna do anything like this. I was not even thinking about just going and exploring the world. But once you are there, the things become easier for you because you are aware. And as Christopher was saying, you have to listen and learn. And as Dr. Abraham as well, it's like you have to read and understand. So all these things have to come together, because the more informed that you are is when you realize that those opportunities are out there and that you are paying attention to that. As I said, for me, it was my first experience, and due to, as I said, living in a small town and growing up there and just learning that it was not going to be financially possible for me. And when I was able to, get the scholarship for Gilman, it was a great success for me. But one of the things that I would recommend is that, as I did in college and that it worked for me very well, I was trying to get involved in different organizations. I was part of the Rotary Club. I was part of the business fraternity, and I was a business ambassador as well. So I was trying to get involved in different activities so I could network more. I could meet other people. And that way I was listening, I was learning, and I was just gathering all kinds of information. I was just trying to be a sponge to get everything. And it just inspired me, meeting people every day from different backgrounds. And I was like, wow, this is great. And that would just inspire me to read something else and to learn something else. And one thing would take me to another and another. And I just want to say that, of course, for the financial part, I think it's very important that if you're involved with more organizations, that's going to give you more leadership skills and different other skills that you can bring together whenever it's time to write an essay for the Gilman Scholarship or for the Fulbright, or just to any other scholarship that your college may be offering. And yes, I got several scholarships, not only the Gilman. So as I was sharing with the panel, my parents were like, how can we help you? And I was like, I got everything covered, so it's fine. So, but they decided to give me my flight ticket. So they were happy doing that, and I was very happy. And yeah, and one other thing, whenever you are even in a country that you are familiar with, or some other country that you're not, you're gonna have a culture shock. You're gonna go out of your comfort zone. However, that's gonna help you grow as a person a lot, and that's gonna expand your horizon very well. And I just want to say that I got a lot of skills to survive as well as a person, and I am a very proud individual who has been able to, live in cities as Mexico City, Ecuador, and just go to different places and just making sure that I am safe and I am informed, and I just have the confidence to go and talk to people and just don't be afraid. And that has helped me a lot as well with my professional development. So I'll be here, and I'm on LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out, and you can do it. This is possible, and it's a lifetime experience. So thank you.
No, thank you all. And I knew we were going to run short on time. So everybody is on LinkedIn. We are going to ask one question, and we'll see if we have any time for the other. But if anybody would like to participate, interestingly, everybody on this panel does not have experience with the federal government, it sounds like, in terms of the benefits after the programs, as that's the common narrative you hear with study abroad programs. So how have you seen that these programs have benefited you in the private sector, not affiliated with the federal government, real quick?
Yeah, I'm going to definitely jump in really quick. There's so much. I think truly everyone has to study abroad because every job, everywhere, everything is better when everyone does it. So I know that in the private sector, people really need people who understand people from different cultures more than anything. I've worked with a lot of students who were studying science, for example, health and natural sciences, and many of them thought that they couldn't study abroad or that it wasn't for them. But ultimately, if you're going to work with humans in any way, you're going to work with humans. Study abroad benefits you. And so I think more and more we're seeing international education in different ways, articulated in different ways, showing up as part of what universities are looking for in their hiring practices. More and more, we're seeing international experiences showing up in the professional realm, especially when it comes to advising students, whether it's formally at a university or in a satellite kind of program. Now in international education, I can't make a strong enough plug for the fact that there is a whole industry of international education professionals. And there is still a lack of diversity within international education as a profession. And this is not a government kind of position. There are some of those, obviously those exist, but the majority of the people who are working in international education are working in government programs. And we need people with study abroad experience to be able to bring more people along in this work.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, we are short on time. I hate being the moderator for this job. If we could have 2 hours, I would give us all 2 hours. But I just wanted to take some time to thank each and every one of our panelists. They are all very busy individuals. As you can tell, they have built their success through study abroad. And real quick, I will just give a testify. I did not know that I could work in a more fulfilling career path in global health and public health as a woman with a disability until I had the opportunity to go to Botswana. And quick pitch, if anybody wants to try and go off the beaten path, as Dr. Abraham alluded to, please pick one of the regions for the countries that you're going to next week. And also, we do have a survey. We appreciate the feedback. We know we could do better, i.e. Katie's organization skills creating awkward silences. Please feel free to give us feedback. We want this to be a sustainable conference. We want this to be useful to y'all. I wish we had more time for Q&A, but please reach out to us on LinkedIn. Please pick a region tomorrow and the areas that you'd be interested in. But it was truly a pleasure. Thank you all so much. Please keep up the great work that you're doing to be inclusive, and everyone else, please study abroad. We need to have this fight. We need people to hold their place, and the more people study abroad, the more that these issues are going to have more people to discuss things and those broader perspectives, and also the inclusion and equity.